Welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen and enjoy my stories every day. As dawn's light filtered through the blinds, casting a checkered shadow across the room, I shuffled sleepily towards the kitchen. The gentle hum of the large aquarium in the living room was a comforting constant in my life, the vibrant fish within a source of quiet joy amidst the chaos of the everyday. But this morning, as I rounded the corner, a chill ran down my spine. The water, usually crystal clear and teeming with life, was clouded with a grim stillness. Several of my cherished goldfish floated lifelessly at the surface. A knot tightened in my stomach. It wasn't just the sight of the dead fish that alarmed me, but also a noticeable shift in the room's atmosphere. The aquarium was slightly askew, its usual pristine condition marred by water drip staining the wooden stand. Heart pounding, I approached and saw a thin, jagged line running down the side of the tank, definitely a crack. What the? My confusion was cut short by the sound of hurried footsteps. My wife, Anna, emerged from the hallway, her face a mask of feigned ignorance. "Oh, what happened here?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "It looks like the tank is cracked. Did something happen last night?" I probed, trying to keep my tone neutral despite the rising suspicion. She hesitated, a flicker of guilt passing through her eyes. I might have bumped into it when I got up for some water. "I'm so clumsy, I'm sorry, love." Her explanation didn't sit right with me, the damage suggested more than a mere bump. I spent the day in turmoil, nursing my aquatic friends and cleaning the mess, all the while the seeds of doubt sprouted in my mind. Later that week, the truth revealed itself. A friend, under the weight of a guilty conscience, confessed he had seen Anna at a club, not just with anyone, but with an old flame from her college days. They were too close, too intimate. And then the memory of the crack in the tank shattered the last of my denial. The location, the force needed, it all pointed to a passionate encounter I was not meant to know about. Betrayal seared through me like wildfire. My beloved fish, casualties of a reckless escapade. My heart, a collateral damage in a secret war I hadn't even known I was fighting. It was in that moment of bitter clarity I made a decision, a vow of retribution, not just for my heart, but for my golden babies whose lives were cut short by a moment's folly. The plan took shape over the following days, meticulous and cold. I would confront them, yes, but revenge required a subtler, more devastating approach. My photography, a career that had opened countless doors, would now serve as the instrument of my vengeance. Through my lens, I would expose them, not with pettiness or scandal, but by stripping away the facade of their secret lives, revealing the ugliness beneath in stark, undeniable clarity. "I'll make sure everyone sees them for who they truly are," I whispered to the empty room, a promise to the silent witnesses floating in the temporary tank beside me. The war had begun, not with a shout, but with the click of a camera shutter. A crack, now in their facades, as I set the stage for their downfall. The hum of the city faded into the background as I set up my camera equipment in the bustling downtown area where I knew I'd find them eventually. The street was a mosaic of hurried pedestrians and street vendors, an ideal setting for candid shots, and for my plan to unfold. With each click of the shutter, I felt a twinge of the cold resolve that had settled in my bones. Today, I was not just a photographer, I was a hunter camouflaged in plain sight. Each snapshot brought me closer to my quarry. And there they were, Anna and her lover, Marcus, strolling leisurely among the crowd, laughing, oblivious to the imminent storm brewing just a lens's length away. My finger hesitated on the shutter button, not out of doubt but to savor the moment of capture. I followed them discreetly, capturing every shared glance, every touch, weaving through the crowds with practiced ease. The perfect picture presented itself when they paused at a cozy street corner cafe, the very image of a couple lost in their own perfect bubble. I snapped the shot, the sound of the shutter like the final nail in a coffin. Later that evening, I confronted them. I entered the cafe, the photos already printed, a dossier of betrayal in my hand. "Anna, Marcus," I began, my voice steady, the print spread on the table like a card player revealing his hand. Care to explain this? The color drained from Anna's face, her eyes darting to the damning evidence then back to me, trapped. Marcus, caught off guard, stuttered, "Look, it's not what. It's exactly what it looks like." I cut him off, my tone sharp as a scalpel. "Did you think you could just push around the pieces of my life like some game?" Anna reached out, her voice a whisper, "I'm sorry, I never meant for you to find out this way." "Save it," I hissed, pulling back from her touch. "You've made your choices." The confrontation spilled out onto the street, their pleas drowned out by my accusations. The scene attracted onlookers, their phones out, recording, unknowingly helping me broadcast the downfall I had orchestrated. My heart pounded with a mixture of triumph and sorrow, the revenge bitter on my tongue. As I walked away, leaving them to their public spectacle, the final piece of my plan clicked into place. Those photos, their story, would soon find their way onto every social media feed and news outlet I could contact. My retribution would be complete, not just in breaking their spirits but in shattering their reputations. Back home, the quiet was a stark contrast to the day's chaos. The new aquarium setup murmured softly, a reminder of what I had lost and what I had gained. Tomorrow, the fallout would be all over the city, but tonight, I was alone with my victory and my regrets, pondering the price of vengeance. The morning after the confrontation was eerily quiet, the early sun casting long shadows that seemed to mirror the darkness lingering in my heart. I sat at my kitchen table, nursing a bitter cup of coffee, my mind replaying the previous night's events over and over like a relentless loop. The phone rang, slicing through the silence. I answered hesitantly, expecting the backlash to begin. It was my friend, Laura, her voice urgent. "Have you seen the news? It's everywhere, and it's chaotic." I turned on the television, my pulse quickening. The images of Anna and Marcus, cornered and desperate, were plastered across the morning news, the headline screaming of a scandal in the city's art scene. My photographs had traveled faster and further than I anticipated, a wildfire fueled by the winds of social media outrage. "But that's not all," Laura continued, her tone a mixture of concern and disbelief. "There are reporters outside your studio. They want your side of the story. Are you going to talk to them?" "No," I replied, the word a sharp exhalation. "Let the photos speak for themselves. I've said all I need to say." Hanging up, I felt the weight of my actions settling in. This was no longer a private affair, it had become a public spectacle. The satisfaction of revenge was quickly being overshadowed by the unfolding consequences. As the day progressed, the phone calls and messages piled up. Some were from strangers praising my courage, others condemning my ruthlessness. Each ping from my phone was a reminder of the irreversible path I had chosen. In the afternoon, I ventured out, my camera slung over my shoulder, seeking solace in the familiarity of the streets. But the city felt different now, every glance seemed accusatory, every whisper a judgment. I captured images mechanically, my thoughts distracted and disjointed. Turning a corner, I nearly bumped into Marcus. His face was haggard, eyes red-rimmed, a stark contrast to the confident man in my photographs. "Look what you've done," he spat, his voice low and menacing. "You could have just confronted us privately, but you chose to ruin everything." "I did what I had to do," I countered, my own anger flaring up again. "You and Anna made your choices, and I made mine. We're all living with the consequences." Marcus shook his head, a mixture of anger and sorrow etched into his features. "You think you've won, but this isn't over. There will be repercussions for this, for all of us." As he walked away, his words echoed in my mind, a foreboding reminder that the ripples of my actions were still spreading, beyond my control and perhaps beyond my original intent. I spent the rest of the day in a restless attempt to lose myself in my work, but the joy of photography was tainted now, each snapshot a reminder of the tool it had become in my quest for retribution. That night, as I reviewed the images I had taken, each frame seemed to capture more than just the city, it captured fragments of my own unraveling story, a narrative marked by betrayal and the heavy cost of revenge. The realization that the story was far from over hung over me like a dark cloud. I had set events in motion that I could no longer control, and the uncertainty of what was to come weighed heavily on my heart. The city lay under a blanket of gray, the sun a distant memory behind thick clouds, mirroring the turmoil inside me. Since exposing Anna and Marcus, my life had become a whirlwind of unwanted attention and inner conflict. The initial satisfaction of my revenge had faded, replaced by a relentless unease. Days had turned into weeks, and the scandal had not died down. If anything, it seemed to burn ever brighter, fueled by every whisper and every headline. But today, I planned to end it all, to close this chapter of betrayal and pain permanently. My preparations were meticulous. I'd learned of a gala where both Anna and Marcus would be in attendance, a perfect public stage for the final act of my vengeance. Armed with my camera and a hidden ace, incriminating evidence of Marcus' financial fraud, which I'd discovered during my relentless investigations, I made my way to the venue. The gala was in full swing when I arrived, the air thick with the perfume of the wealthy and the clink of expensive glassware. I spotted them immediately, Anna in a flowing red dress, Marcus at her side, both wearing masks of feigned normality. I approached, my camera slung casually over my shoulder, the photos of Marcus' illicit activities burning a hole in my pocket. "Enjoying the evening?" I asked, my voice cool as I stopped before them. Anna's smile faltered, her eyes wary. "What are you doing here?" "I thought I'd capture some final memories," I said, lifting my camera slightly. Marcus stiffened, sensing the threat. "Let's not cause a scene," he muttered. "Oh, there won't be any scene," I replied, my tone light yet chilling. "Unless, of course, you prefer I share these with everyone here." I brandished the photos of his fraudulent activities, watching as his face turned pale. "This is insane," Marcus hissed, glancing nervously around. "You've taken this too far." "Far? No, I think exposing you both is just the right distance," I retorted, stepping closer. "But there's more. Not only will these photos ruin you, Marcus, but I've also made sure they'll find their way to the authorities. And as for you, Anna," I turned to her, "everyone now knows exactly what you are. I've made sure of that." The crowd around us had begun to notice, their eyes curious and probing. Anna looked around, trapped and desperate. "Please, this isn't the way." "It's the only way," I cut her off. "This ends tonight. I'm done with both of you." As security began to edge closer, attracted by the growing tension, I took a step back. "Enjoy the rest of your evening," I said mockingly, snapping one final picture of their shocked faces from my personal collection. I turned and walked out, leaving the gala, leaving them, and leaving behind the shards of my former life. The cool air hit me as I exited, a cleansing breath after the stifling atmosphere inside. In the solitude of the night, the full weight of my actions settled upon me. There was no joy in this victory, no peace in the aftermath. As I walked away, the echo of my steps on the pavement matched the rhythm of newfound resolve. I would start anew, far from here, away from the ghosts of betrayal and revenge. The city's lights dimmed behind me as I moved forward, each step a move towards redemption. My past, encapsulated in those final images, would remain just that, images, frozen in time, as I stepped out of the frame and into a new narrative.